Welcome to the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions. My name is Kimberly Jackson, and I'm the Executive Director of our think tank. ISPS, as we call it, is the brainchild of Congressman Bill Young. He sought to connect our community and simply have community chats on topics that mean so much to each of us. Tonight, we're honored to host the City of Dunedin's debate. It's going to be a forum on the mayoral race and the commissioner race. And we are happy and honored to have our favorite host, Al Rochelle, moderate that debate. To learn more about the Institute, please visit our Facebook page or our website. Thanks, Al. We look forward to your questions tonight.
All right, well, here we go. The wonders of communication. We're so glad you could join us tonight for tonight's debate. And we're going to have a good time answering about 10 questions and then some lightning round questions. The rules have been explained are pretty simple. You got 60 seconds to answer the question. Because there are only two candidates in each race, we'll just go back and forth between the candidates and they'll get a chance to answer the questions. There'll be some lightning round questions. Well, I'll just ask for a yes or no answer. I know that's tough to do, but at least get you on record with the way you feel about some of the issues. And we'll take it from there. Again, my thanks to the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions. Their sign is behind me from St. Petersburg College. I worked with Kim a number of years ago, and she's doing a great job for the college, and we hope you enjoy tonight's debate. So let's bring in the candidates for mayor right now. We have Julie Ward Bujalski, who is the current mayor for Dunedin, and Heather Grace, who is the current vice mayor for the city of Dunedin. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you for having us.
All right, here we go. Ooh, it's so exciting. Let's start with the first question, number one. And ladies, I'm just going to call you by your first names because it'll make it go a lot faster. So Julie, here's our first question. You'll have a minute to answer it. What is your leadership style?
Oh, that's a good question. In a business, I generally let people rise to the top and let them take a leadership role. As mayor, I tend to have a champion voice. So when there are issues in Dunedin that we need to get fixed or work with other communities on, I tend to go right to those communities and start talking. So that's what I would say.
Okay, and I'm talking to Kyle, my administrator. Are we going to have a clock up? Because I did not see one appearing on our screen. And if not, I can keep track right here because I think everybody will be pretty good about keeping to the 1 minute rule. So Kyle, if the clock does not come up, we'll just keep it going. So let's go now to you, Heather. What would you describe as your leadership style? And you'll have a minute. And ladies, because we're going to the time up right now, we'll have about a minute. And stop you, I'll stop you. But I'm very, very polite in the way that I do that. Go right ahead, Heather.
Thank you, Al. I would describe my leadership style as compassionate and candid. Here in Dunedin, things happen organically. And from that approach, it's always more special when things start at the grassroots level and they move themselves up through advisory committees. And that's where I can listen to what the public is saying. I can hear what residents are thinking and feeling. And so that my style is taken really from the advisory approach. The bottom up is much better, I think, than when we try to govern from top down. I think Dunedin responds best when we have lots of bites at that, whatever apple it might be that we're deciding on. So my approach and my leadership is positive, and more than likely you're going to hear the truth from me very candidly, and the truth about fiscal responsibility as well. Thanks, Al.
Okay, that sounds good. Now, Heather, we'll ask you this question now this time around, and hold on, that means the cookies are out of the oven. Okay, good. We had a very good supper tonight. My wife's a wonderful cook, by the way. So, Heather, now the question for you is, considering COVID, how do you plan to support small businesses navigate all of the challenges and the hurdles? And especially since we've seen such a growth of all these new wonderful restaurants and businesses that are occurring in the city. Heather, you got about a minute to answer that question, if you would.
Thanks, Al, and I appreciate that one because it's very relevant. And so what the city has done and what I've supported from the beginning of the COVID onslaught here in Dunedin for all to get a navigator on board with the city so that our small businesses have an opportunity to talk with professionals. Sometimes we at the local level don't know exactly everything that the feds or the states might do. And so having somebody in an expertise level really helped us gain an advantage, I think, for our small businesses, our breweries, our restaurants, our galleries, and so forth. Visiting them, telling them, I'm here for you. I'm going to be here on the other side as well, I think was the approach that many, many businesses needed and wanted to have. I don't have all the answers, but I know that we're here. The city is here for them. And visiting with them and making sure that they have access to information, I think was the biggest challenge. And I'm super proud that Dunedin's been able to do that. And it's been gracious for me to be involved in it.
Okay, Julie, you have the same question. How do you plan to support small businesses navigate all the challenges and the hurdles that come along with the COVID virus?
Well, good question, Al. One of the things as mayor that I've been doing has really been on speed dial with many of our businesses. I try to touch base with them when it first started about once a week with many of them. So communication was really key. I urged our city manager to start the rapid Zoom calls so that just informally every time an executive order would change or something new would happen, that they would have the opportunity to ask questions and get what the real feedback is, what the governor's order was or what the county's order was. Another thing that we're working really hard on, and I am strongly supportive of, is a marketing plan for our community. We want to tell visitors that we are open for business, but which we want you to visit safely. And we have had all of the business organizations on our recovery task force. So those are some of the things that have been really important to me.
Okay, another question for you, Julie. What are your views on the new municipal complex?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that we haven't voted to build it yet. We've only voted to finish the design in order to get it shovel ready in case there are stimulus grants out there that can be had. Whatever we do, it will not require a tax increase. The funding that's slated for it, most of the funding is from Penny for Pinellas, which is the sales tax that our voters approved. And that sales tax, 1/3 of it is paid by tourists. And, we need it for our employees. We've got 25% of our workforce scattered all over the city. What's really important is that a government should be providing essential services and they should do it in an efficient way. And we will not move forward until we know that we can afford to do so. Thanks, Al.
Okay, Heather, the same question for you. What are your views on the new municipal complex?
Well, thanks, Al. My views have been stated in a vote about 2 months ago, and I came off of that support because I think $22 million is exorbitant for a government building. And the more I travel around Dunedin on the campaign trail, the more I get to talk about this. And the residents are a bit alarmed at the fact that we're building something new. I'm concerned about our revenue assumptions. And I'm really concerned about just the plans, $600,000 that it's going to take out of our general fund just to draw the plans. That's 1/3 of what could help our $1.9 million deficit. So in looking at that, I want to make sure that we're doing it right the first time. And I can't get on board with that type of spending given a lot of the commercial opportunities that I think are out there now. So that's how I feel. And that's on my website too. Thanks, Al.
All right, so Heather, we continue on with you now and put a little mark so I don't get all confused. Traffic concerns are a strong issue for Dunedin residents. What plans do you foresee to ease the traffic flow in the area?
That's a great question because traffic does come up as one of the most irritating factor, not only in Dunedin, but around Pinellas County. And so looking at different alternatives on how we travel, COVID has shown us one thing, and one thing I've heard on the campaign trail a lot was, I start walking now. It's easier to walk. And I find that too. biking is certainly an advantageous route for us, in addition to making sure our golf carts are all around town and that we have a golf cart related community that we've invested in to make sure we're cutting down on the carbon, and also diversification of travel. Not everybody needs to do everything in a car, we think. And so things like the ferry service and even bus service are very important to us as we navigate through this environment. Diversification, Al, that's my answer for traffic.
Okay, Julie, the same thing. What are we going to do about traffic, and how do you foresee any changes that would ease the traffic flow to the city? Julie?
Well, that is also a good question. Traffic has kind of been the bane of our existence here in Pinellas County. We are the most densely populated county with 1 million people that live here in our county. And in addition, we have 5.6 million visitors every year. Dunedin has 3 state roads and 2 county roads going through it. So all of those people converge through our city all the time. And it is annoying for sure. It's one of the reasons that I went to work and fought for a number of things for our city. 7-day-a-week Jolly Trolley service, the Clearwater Dunedin Ferry service, as well as some of the safety features, the crosswalks on Alt 19. I'm fortunate enough to sit on Forward Pinellas, and I've been fighting for Dunedin all the time that I've been there. One of the things I've been working on is to get rid of the Dunedin causeway congestion, and we've got big plans on that, as well as the Skinner Boulevard and safety improvements on Alt 19. So those are some of the things that I'm already working on. Thank you, Al.
Well, I hope you keep the dog park, because Moose sitting down over here always likes that dog park. So please don't get rid of that. My personal request here, Julie. So here we go again with another question for you. What are your thoughts on fiscal responsibility and accountability? Please provide an example of your views as they relate to a community growth project.
A community growth project? Okay. So like development. Well, my fiscal views are generally conservative. Let's say I'm really cautious about community with our economy right now, and our key indicators are showing that we're not going to be quite as bad as the 2008 recession. My biggest concerns are sales tax collections and commercial property values. I have many years experience of being an economic forecaster, and I base my fiscal decisions on facts, not emotion. I voted for 3 millage rate reductions, low income tax credits for seniors, and today our millage rate is only 7% less than it was when I started. So I have a long record of prudent decision making. I don't believe that development should be an answer to our budget problems. Thank you, Al.
Okay, Heather, the same question for you. What are your thoughts on fiscal responsibility and accountability in terms of keeping the community growing?
So those are 2 points that I like to champion in every decision that I make. Fiscal responsibility is what I owe the taxpayers. It's what I owe the residents of Dunedin. So every vote that I make has that tinge to it. And for a community project, I would probably venture, Al, to go back again to that city hall. It is one of the biggest things we need in the city of Dunedin, and right now the fiscal responsibility in for it concerns me. That is too big. $500 a square foot, as determined by our city's Board of Finance, was just too much for me to hang on the taxpayer. And when I look at the impacted reserves, or our reserve level, and I looked at the impact from the social, I'm sorry, from our sales taxes, I'm not sure we're going to have all we need to get that done.
Let me just ask you, this is kind of a going away from it. I have another question for you. So what would you consider to be a reasonable price for a city hall?
It's 50% less. I can tell you off the bat that we expect somewhere in the tune of 50% less. So by
Okay,
choice, or the same thing has to be cut in half.
okay. Let me move on to the next question. So this is again for you, Heather. Many in the community have taken issue with code enforcement citations. And boy, have you gotten a lot of publicity, probably unwanted, on that one. Do you find the residents' complaints are valid when it comes to code enforcement citations? Heather?
Al, I do. I do find that they are valid. Anything a resident tells me, communications from the city is extremely valid for me. These are not customers. These are people who support all of us. And so when I'm listening to them, there could be improvements in the process. There will be improvements at the staff level, and I know that there'll be improvements with a new city attorney. They feel like they just don't have a voice. So returning that voice to them by way of changing policy, by way of changing rules and different board levels, that's what we owe to our residents. We owe
Do
our
you think
residents the ability to tell their story.
do you think that you've gone overboard on some code enforcement issues?
I, I do believe we have, and I do have that varied. We had a selection of new city attorneys, and I used that time to find out what their opinions could be. And yes, not without putting anyone on the spot, but I know that some of them could have been. I think we were overzealous in our. I think that
Okay.
staff could do a better.
All right, let's go back to you, Julie. Same question for code enforcement citations. And we realize that in running cities, code enforcement is one of those areas that a lot of cities struggle with, of trying to keep that balance between wanting to keep the properties looking good and yet not trying to come off as being so onerous. So the citations is the city being too rough? And what about the residents' complaints? Are those complaints valid?
They are, absolutely. And, it should have never happened, if you really want to know the truth.
Right.
Unfortunately, the commission isn't a part of the day-to-day code enforcement process, so we were certainly surprised when it came about. But we are definitely working on fixing the problem. The first step we took was we hired all new employees. So we have a new city attorney. We have all new code compliance staff. We have a new compliance officer, and we're getting ready to hire a new department head. And we did this because we wanted to make sure that the people that were managing this process had the right mindset for our residents. We're also rebranding the department from code enforcement to code compliance, because that is what we're trying to achieve. We're capping fines, we're having a tiered fine system, and we're doing an amnesty program. It's really important that we balance both compliance as well as the resident's voice.
And to be fair, what do you think is a reasonable cost for a new city hall?
Well, the cost to build the city hall is actually 15 million and change. The 22 million is the cost of the parking lot, it's cost of the furniture, and all the other things that go along with it. I will tell you that Largo is looking at a city hall. They have more population than we do, and their cost is at 38 million right now. So
Okay, good. Okay, super. Julian, let's move on to another question. This one's for you again. How do you plan to expand community input and increase transparency?
well, that's a great question. We have done a lot in the last 4 years to expand community input. We, prior to COVID, we started to do listening sessions. We have 4 meetings a month instead of 2. We have the new e-comments, which has been used regularly during COVID. But I do think we need to do more. We just recently talked today, actually, about an app, more for visitors, but I think that we could do an app for the city to be able to report problems like downed trees or lights being out or the sidewalk that's broken. I think we need to up our game with our technology to ensure that there's a two-way dialogue at all times. Thank you.
Okay. And Heather, you have the same opportunity to answer that question. How do you plan to expand community input and increase transparency?
We have a terrific community who gives us as much input as we ask for, and allowing that to continue to function will be one of my mayoral priorities. Sitting down as a mayor with small businesses, with neighborhoods, is a priority of mine. I've had a great time on this campaign trail doing a lot of that, and I can see moving and transitioning that same small group. Because of COVID right now, we can't gather that big. So it's been it's been meaningful to meet in small groups, and I change that and take that into an organization within the city. Again, our advisory groups are so helpful, but once we reach out within the plans in the corridors, be able to use technology even more and make sure we're leveraging what we're telling through our Facebook, through our social media, and tell Dunedin's story reflective of the residents.
Okay, and Heather, you get to start the next question is, in light of the tremendous budget issues at our state and county levels, how do you plan to increase funding for the city of Dunedin? And do you plan to increase funding for the city of Dunedin?
Great question. Looking at that budget, we're going to need to increase some type of the funding because we have too big of a structural deficit in about 2 years. So looking at how we increase that funding, my goals are to make sure that we're spending less before we ask the taxpayer for any more. Spending less on our budgets, spending less on our travel, asking staff to do the job rather than consultants. These are very important things that add up in our operational values for the city. And so answering that taxpayer question is very important. How are we going to spend less? I'm looking for the residents to tell us what kind of service levels they expect to see. The are way too much with the city. And I've heard from residents that we need to make sure that we're spending only what we have. So before I go back to residents, I want to make sure that we have everything covered in terms of spending less.
Okay, and Julie, the same question for you. In light of the budget issues, state and county, how do you plan to increase funding for the city of Dunedin if you increase it at all?
Well, thank you. It is a good question, and I do think we need to manage our spending at all times. But I think we cannot just do that. We have to build an economy. That's what we need to be focused on, and that's what we tried to focus on during the recession. Something I have a lot of experience at. We have Coca-Cola that is just getting ready to leave in the next 2 years. We need to make sure that there's somebody there to replace it. In order to, keep that tax income coming in and providing jobs for our residents, which also helps our economy. I think that we need to ensure that we're an attractive community for businesses, making sure we don't have a lot of red tape, because the more businesses that move into our community, again, the more revenue. We need to look into the whole home-based office type situation, because that is the latest craze, and what do we need to do in our regulations there. And we need to market our community for our visitors, because that will increase our penny for Pinellas. Thank you, Al.
Oh, great. All right, we're getting down the time just goes by so fast, but this is Julie, this is for you again. As the city grows, do you think you can maintain the charm of the area? And let me just add an editorial note here. As a resident of Pinellas County, I love Dunedin. I'm on the trail all the time. We love the restaurants up there. Not a commercial, Costatina. We just love everything that's going up there. Small communities have sometimes a problem because they kill the golden goose. How can you make sure that you don't kill the golden goose for Dunedin and keep its character with a need for more development? Julie, that's for you.
Well, okay, well, thank you. I think the first thing we need to do is combat overdevelopment, because that's critical to who we are. Once you build it, you can't get rid of it. I've worked really hard, as my colleagues have, to lower building heights, add architectural standards, add more green space and parkland, which of course we're working on the Douglas property, adding public art to development and to our city on a whole. And I have a long track record of voting against developments that don't fit. The Miami Modern project on the corner of Douglas and Main, and the several 5-story developments that have come forward. But Dunedin is about its people. She has great people, and we have a huge connection, and we need to remain special. We do that by having all of the amenities: the beach, the downtown, the baseball, the arts center, the historical society, making sure that we never lose sight of all of the things that make Dunedin special. Thank you.
Okay, and Heather, the same question for you about how do you make sure you don't kill the golden goose just to get that egg?
Right. I call that the secret sauce, Al. Dunedin certainly does have something secret in our sauce, and it is the people. I don't believe it's buildings. It is the people who drive by and know they have to stop and be here and then buy a house here and live here. Dunedin is the attractor. And so making sure that she attracts The most welcome approach is really important as a mayor here in Dunedin. Using all of our resources because they're beautiful, our natural resources, right? Our sun's always going to be here and the water's always going to be here to be enjoyable. And managing those natural resources with the people who love them and are passionate about them, that's what keeps a hometown, that's what keeps a small town vital. We are small enough that we can move a lot of information, and we move a lot of great, charming information around to move that Dunedin dollar and to make us special.
So let me. I'm throwing in another question. Most of these questions that we got were from people that came from the League of Women Voters and other people that provided some income, including the Pinellas County Council of PTAs were also involved in this. So there was I know this because again we come up to the area and I could have gotten a parking ticket. I didn't. It was close. So are you in favor of creating more free parking, or has the parking issue been, in quotes, resolved in that area, or what would you do to make it perfect? And let me start with you, Heather, on that one.
Oh, thanks, Al. So there is no perfection, especially when it comes to parking. I think is always insatiable. We see that at places like Countryside Mall. The pilot that we did here in Dunedin was an epic failure. I readily admit that. The intent there is obviously a fiscal one, but what it does is showed us, I think through a couple different studies now, that our inventory in parking has increased upwards of maybe 40%. And so I think that having that quality of life factor in parking is definitely what Dunedin has told me they want. I've heard that loud and clear, and I don't believe that there's currently the same parking problem that we had about 5 years ago. I think a lot of that has been eliminated, and folks do now remember that parking can be a challenge, not only downtown, but at the community center and on the causeway. And that's that diversification of transportation that we need.
Mm-hmm. Julie, same question for you on the parking. Well, what's the future of parking? Do you have enough free parking? Should more be added? What?
I think over time we'll have to add some more. I mean, I'd just like to say that, I voted against paid parking from the beginning. I didn't see it as a fiscal issue. I saw it as the soul of our community, because we are a small community and we have a lot of our locals support our downtown, which I think, folks just really didn't think that was true. But at least 50% of the support for our community comes from locals. And so I think paid parking needs to remain free. And I also think that we may need to add some more. Some of the things that we're working on is adding Uber drop-offs so that it won't require somebody to park. Also, park and rides for our special events. We're working on a major parking plan for that. We are looking at a test run for a vehicle to go past spring training so that you can park and ride for that. So, yeah, yes, do I think we need a little bit of more parking? We do, but that'll be over time. Thank you.
All right, so now I'm going to do a few lightning round questions. And again, these are the ones that were submitted. I'll try to paraphrase them because some of them get kind of complicated. So let's just start with the first one. And what we'll do is we'll have Julie answer it and then Heather answer it. And then Julie and Heather just go back and forth like that because it's easier to do it that way. So let's start out with number one. Do you believe your city has an adequate tax rate? We're just looking for a yes or no on that one. Julie?
Me? Yes.
Adequate tax base? Heather?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And you said yes. Okay. Are you in favor of preparing a strong environmental plan for the city of Dunedin? Yes or no?
Yes.
Julie? Heather?
Yes, I am.
That's like, are you in favor of breathing? Excuse me, I'm being facetious now. Okay, and then this one. Given the fact that with the Blue Jays expansion, it took away 4 community baseball fields, a dog park, a playground from the community next to Garrison Jones Elementary School, cut down over a dozen 100-year-old oak trees on Arbor Day, are there any plans in the works to replace those facilities for the people that live in that area? Or would you be in favor of replacing those facilities? That, a yes or no on that one, if that be possible. Julie?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes. Yes.
And let me just ask an open-ended one for both of you to respond to. Julie, is it a good idea what the city has done with the Blue Jays?
What we've
And you
done
can
with the Blue
expound on-
Jays?
Yeah, you can
Oh,
expound a little more if you'd like.
absolutely. Absolutely. We are a small city with Major League Baseball, which is a very unique situation. Brings in $90 million of annually of economic impact to our county. And if you ask any of the businesses around it, they will tell you that it would be devastating to them if we lost them. And it provides something really wonderful for the city. And we were able to get into that deal for 7% of the total cost. And our taxpayers own both properties and both buildings. And I thought that was a pretty
Right.
good deal,
Yeah, you're leasing it essentially. Is that correct?
more or less, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Heather, same thing for you in that area.
So this is lightning round, right? What was it? Blue
Well,
Jays are beneficial?
well, okay. You can expound a little bit more on this. In other words, to build the Blue Jay facility, a lot of community free resources were taken away from the residents. And the first part of the question was, are you going to restore those and not make them drive another 2.5, 3 miles to find the same facilities?
Yes, Al. I hope to restore everything that was taken away, put back and made whole again. And we can do that incrementally. We can do that when we find the right spaces. But having the Jays here has been terrific for Dunedin to be a Grapefruit League city. We have a lot of pride in that. The small businesses and the residents around the stadium area deserve a lot of that economic benefit that results from that four-party funding agreement. So it is a terrific boon for Dunedin to have the Blue Jays, and the replacement of the assets that for baseball should be replaced and will be replaced.
Okay, the residents that live along Garrison Jones roads will be happy when they hear that. And they will hear it, I'm sure. All right, so now you've got 2 minutes for a closing statement. And we're going to start with because we'll start with you, Julie, just because it's easier. You've got 2 minutes now to give us an opening statement about why you should be reelected as mayor of the wonderful city of Dunedin. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, thank you, Al. I appreciate it. We've gone through a lot in this last year. With COVID, our businesses have really suffered. Many of our residents lost their jobs. Some have gotten sick. What I really love about Dunedin, though, is that we rise up when we face adversity and we come together. We've accomplished great things here in Dunedin. We're the envy of the county. Our residents told us what their priorities are: overdevelopment, traffic, affordable housing, and servicing businesses citywide. Those are your issues, so they are my issues. Dunedin deserves a leader that is accessible during good times and bad, one who cares about the soul of our community. Leaders who truly listen will reflect your voice in their votes. And I believe that I am that voice that you can count on, the voice you can trust. I'm honored to have been endorsed by the Sierra Club, the Fraternal Order of Police, the Pinellas Realtors Organization, Equality Florida, the National Organization of Women, and 4 past mayors to lead Dunedin into the future. So now I'm asking for your endorsement and your vote on November 3rd. Thank you so much.
All right, Julie Ward Bajowski, thank you so much for that information. Heather Gracie, you now have 2 minutes to tell us why you should be elected as mayor of the city of Dunedin.
Thank you, Al. I appreciate it. And in deciding to run for the mayor of Dunedin, I want a better path forward for residents. And by a better path forward, what I'm talking about there is a lot of times being the city should be more welcoming rather than weary. I want to welcome all of the new homeowners and businesses that come to Dunedin and longer for them. Make sure Patricia Avenue has that neighborhood punch, and make sure the Causeway feels that they're connected. Sometimes they have to feel that they have to work 3 times just as hard to get their boats to float just as high. So it's very important that we're doing business and supporting all of our local businesses. And just a quick story. On why I want to run for mayor. And there was a small girl, I was in the library when it was open, and she looked up at me and she looked at the wall. All of her pictures are up there, and she was amazed. And she says, "Wow, that's you." She goes, "You could be president one day." And I looked at her, and I was just starstruck, right? But what she said to me was, or I said to her, was, no, you, my friend, could be president. And showing our youth, showing our students, and showing our community what our elected leaders can do for us is the reason that I'm running. Being welcome and weary, spending less and listening more to those code enforcement stories, listening more to our residents who have had these conflicts is what's really important to me, and what started me asking questions and why, convincing me why I wanted to be mayor. So a better path forward, more listening, and surely a safe and stable Dunedin as we try to enter and get through what is new to us in COVID. Side for all of our protection. Thank you.
All right, ladies, thank you so much. Boy, great conversations with the two women that would like to be mayor of the city of Dunedin. So thank you again for stopping by and giving us an opportunity to chat and giving you an opportunity to express yourselves on the issues that are important to you. So now we're going to move on to two more candidates that we have. This is for commission seat number 3. Commission seat number 3. And I'll be joined by Mike Quill, who was one of the candidates, and John Tornga, Tornga, who was one of the other candidates that's running for commission seat number 3. So, gentlemen, Kyle, if you want to bring him into the frame, we'll go ahead and start out with our questioning here. It's going to be just like we did before. We'll try to ask probably some of the same series of questions that we had before and give you an opportunity to talk about them. And I still think we're waiting for Mike to pop up in his screen. So if Mike is listening to me, make sure that you've taken that little X mark off your camera so that we can see you. And Kyle, are we working on that? Let me see if I see any notes up there. No notes up there. And we're still working on the technical side of things, I hear. Okay.
Yep.
There we go. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We appreciate it.
You're welcome, Al. I wouldn't forget you.
I've been told I'm unforgettable, but for a lot of other reasons. We got to just put it that way. So, gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and use your first names because it'll make it easier. You'll have about a minute. You'll see on the screen it has the clock down there, but I think a minute is adequate to answer most of these questions. So let's just start out right from the top. And going alphabetically, Mike, what is your leadership style?
Al, my leadership style is situational. I don't believe one tool fits all. I think you have to draw from all disciplines to find the best practices, of course, for the greater good. So when I have to be a Democrat, I will. When I have to be an autocrat, I will. I draw from the opinions of other people and ask what a certain policy will do to affect them. So I think you can't get stuck in one mindset. You have to look at all types of solutions to solve a problem. There is always a way. You can find a solution. It's not an all or nothing. So again, I'm a situational leader that draws from all disciplines to find the solution for the greater good, and the greater good of the citizens of Dunedin.
Okay, John, same question for you. What is your leadership style?
Collaboration. I like to listen to a lot of people. You learn that as a young Marine Corps officer. You don't always have all the answers, even when you do, even if you think you do, and maybe somebody that has better input and give you better direction. I really believe in input, and certainly in a position as a commissioner, I really want to hear a lot from a lot of folks on pretty much every decision that's made. Once the decision is made, then of course I would show the effective style that would support that decision and rally those to support that decision as well. Thank you.
All right, John, thank you. And John, you're going to get a shot at this next question. Considering COVID, how do you plan to support small businesses navigate challenges and hurdles? And so many small businesses have been hurt by COVID. Unintentional, it came out of nowhere, but the hurt is very, very real. So, John, if you could answer that question for you, how to support small businesses navigate the challenges and the hurdles of COVID?
I think that we need to make sure that we have total communication going to the small businesses. Oftentimes they're very busy. they're attempting to figure out how to run their business specifically during a trial time. And certainly a municipality should make sure that the lines are open to all the federal organizations as well as the state and county organizations. Those are the organizations that generally help. But more importantly, the communication. And oftentimes, again, the service organization and or the manufacturing organization is really focused on what they're doing. And I think as long as we do our very best to get that kind of communication out, and then having a tremendous amount of empathy for them, and to ensure that we communicate as effectively as possible, that if we're open, they're open, we're open. Thank you.
All right. Mike, same question for you. How do you support small businesses given the fact of what they've had to go through because of COVID?
Thank you, Al. Safety first. While you can never foresee every crisis, you can plan to be resilient in your response. First of all, let's look towards home-based jobs. The Dunedin is well suited for that. The economy is perfect for that. It also ease traffic as an ancillary benefit. Let's hire a full-time grant writer on staff for the city of Dunedin so that we can look for federal, state, and local grants to help our local business folks. Affordable housing. Let's look at ADUs and infill to help stimulate our business community. So we need to diversify our economy, and we need to look towards hiring a full-time grant writer to find more revenue sources to help stimulate that. Thank you, Al.
Okay, Mike, let's stick with you. What are your views on the new municipal complex? As we've been hearing in some of the other candidates, some think that we're spending too much money. Others, people say that they like the plan, that there might be going forward. So what is your opinion on the municipal complex?
We've got a dirt parking lot right now, and it's really the citizens' house. It is a municipal complex, but where the people do their business. We need to build it, and we need to find a way to build it. I feel that what we need to look forward towards is to make sure that we know what the county's gross penny will be, and that we know what our share is going to be minus the 6%, and that we can coordinate that effort to better prioritize our capital projects. But regarding City Hall, most important to me are the city employees, that they have a safe environment to work, that they have an organized building that they can work from, and that the citizens of Dunedin have a place where they can come and do business. So we need to find a way to build that. I heard the city manager loud and clear. She wanted to do a due diligence. She wanted to get a design, permitting, and construction docs done so she can get an RFP, so she can get a hard number and be shovel ready. And I agree with that. Thank you, Al.
Okay, and with same question for you, John, about the municipal complex. What are your views on it?
I'm not supportive of funding it at this point in time. I don't think that we have the significant funds within the penny. I think that we have taken a dangerous step with some of our reserve funds, and we've had several opportunities to be involved in other activities. One was mentioned earlier tonight. I presented to the commission in February and asked them to put that process on hold to save the money that would have been spent. Again, we're spending another $600,000 trying to get that ready. Meanwhile, we have Coca-Cola property with 20 surrounding acres in a coastal area that you'll never see again. That showed its head. And now we have other opportunities. And I think we need to be spending our money very wisely. We do not need to have a 100-year building, because I don't think we know what's going to be here in 100 years or how we're going to be functioning in 100 years. So I do not support it.
Okay, John, let's stick with you and move on to another favorite topic of all of us that drive the area, traffic concerns. They're a strong issue for the residents of Dunedin. What plans do you foresee to ease the traffic flow? Have at it, John.
Well, that's a good one, because with regards to not only the county but the state, we're a very heavily transportation state. And we fill very, very quickly. And I think what we need to do now is really focus on omnipresent, multimodal transportation. And that means within specific areas, when and where we can, we introduce all different forms of transportation. If you look up in the air, if you look on the ground, if you're walking, if you're riding, if you've got an electrical vehicle, electric scooter, all of those things need to work together. I know that we presented to PSTA some time ago an opportunity to utilize Dunedin as a place to put a vehicle that can deliver folks to outlying parking areas and the like. So I think that's really important that we really focus on what we have today and use all of it as functionally as we can.
Okay, Mike, same question for you. Traffic, what are you going to do about it?
I'm going to fix it, Al. That's what I'm going to do. I support Vision Zero. Pedestrian-focused design and development will be the key to meeting the challenge of traffic and parking, as well as growing home-based economy-type businesses to ease traffic congestion on our streets. Again, I also support the test market for those 2 electric buses that'll happen in March. I believe they'll hold 10 passengers from the PSTA. I think that's a great idea. It's already been tested in Tampa and did really well. And I think that'll go far to easing our traffic congestion. We need to be focused more on the 580 corridor and utilize the same pedestrian-focused design there as well to focus our energies on traffic calming devices and the latest and greatest technology items that are going out. Thank you.
Okay. Mike, we're going to stick with you with our next question. It says, what are your thoughts on fiscal responsibility and accountability? Please provide an example of your views as they would relate to community projects that are growth projects particularly. So fiscal responsibility and accountability. Mike?
Well, first, transparency is number one. We must be transparent when we're talking about a fiscal responsibility. But as far as about community growth and projects, I think affordable housing and providing affordable housing incentives to our community and to our developers is key. Hiring a full-time grant writer to ease some of the burdens we have financially in this upcoming uncertain time. Infill developments would go far to help diverse this economy. Stimulating growth according to our master plan and the Divide of Dunedin. That's about it, Al. Thank you.
Okay. John, same question for you when it comes to fiscal responsibility and accountability. Give me an example of, as far as community growth is, how you keep growth going and yet still maintain accountability and transparency.
Well, those are a lot of terms to throw into 1 minute, but for fiscal responsibility, most certainly we have to spend at a level that we can afford to spend at. And that fiscal responsibility requires us to really look at our forecast of what we really believe we're going to have coming in. We've been a little bit too aggressive, in my personal opinion, as well as we are depriving our reserve funds, and we're actually changing now the requirement to get to our reserve funds into a period of up to 5 years, and that's just not fiscally responsible. We need to also improve on our process. The Board of Finance has made that point very clear for a couple of years now, and specifically this year. And then adding in the additional load of this municipal building is just a little bit too much. We're stretching ourselves.
Okay, John, we'll stick with you, and we're going to talk about another favorite topic. Especially with some national exposure, which was either good or bad. Many in the community have taken issue with code enforcement citations. Do you find residents' complaints valid about code enforcement citations? Go ahead. John?
I certainly do. I presented to the commission in February again with a list of requests, and I was attempting to find out just exactly how many code enforcement fines that we were owed, as well as if we had taken any properties, and if we've taken pieces of properties. The city attorney at that time was talking about them being an asset, and if it's an asset, well, then you would have to depreciate an asset if you had it on your books. And it seemed to me like we were just going way overboard, and I didn't know who was directing that or why that was happening. Unfortunately, I never received a response. I was not asking for a response from myself, and I directed that. I was very clear about that. I was asking for all the folks that were behind me, meaning other residents, other citizens, other stakeholders in Dunedin, wanting to know that same question and that same concern. People losing a house because they didn't cut their yard? I don't think so.
Right, and the mayor told us earlier that those people, many of those people in that department were removed. So let's go on again with Mike. You have the same opportunity to talk about code enforcement citations. Do you think that we've done enough now to correct the situation, and what would you do?
Thank you, Al. Yes, I think Dunedin has taken a great step with that new policy and ordinance where there is a one fine and the fine is not cumulative. I also suggested at a commission meeting that they add an educational requirement for the pollution penalty codes regarding illegal dumping. In other words, Al, they get a fine and they get an opportunity to take a training session with Whitney, and she shows them some dynamic videos of what actual pollution does to our local and county areas and environment, and how it affects the our sea life and animals. But anyway, I don't think we should be in the business of taking people's home. But again, I think that this new ordinance and adding the training component went a long way. People that did misuse this were terminated. So this is all good. It's not doom and gloom. And I think we're on the right track. And I support the city's effort with the training component added. Thank you, Al.
All right, Mike, let's go back to you again. Now another question. How do you plan to expand community input and increase transparency?
That's a great question. First, you can't do it all from the dais in a few meetings. I plan on having town hall meetings. I plan on going out and meeting with the public as much as possible in all four corners of this city. And I believe that getting more citizen input is key. I tell you what I won't do. I will not limit a citizen's ability to speak at any point, whether it's on a dais or whether it's out in the public. I would never do that. It's paramount that the citizens have input, whether it's in a formal commission meeting or whether you're in a town hall. So I think bringing them in to the process more is important. Other than that, Al, I think that's the key. Just bringing them in and giving them time to speak and not limit their ability to speak on any issue.
Okay.
Thank you.
John, you've been listening. The same question for you. Expanding community input and increased transparency. How would you do it?
Insufficient input to all issues is unacceptable, and we certainly have to strive to improve on that. I agree with some of what has been said previously by others tonight. I think it's very important that we have an opportunity to sit down with residents well in advance, and most importantly, is to give them all of the facts. That would be the transparency side of it. Rather than asking them, would you like a tall building or a short building, explain what all of that really means. And I don't think we've done a great job on that. I think we can do a lot better. I think it'll be a lot better for our community. I think our community will react much better. Our community will give us much better input. And we've got some great folks in this community to help us with those decisions. So I'm totally in agreement with sitting down more often, more frequently on more issues with our residents.
All right. And John, we'll stick with you for this next one. In light of the tremendous budget issues at our state and county level, how do you plan to increase funding for the city of Dunedin, and will you increase funding for the city of Dunedin? John, you're first on that.
I am not looking at the funding side as much as what I'm looking at the spending side. On the funding side it takes a process. It takes a bit to increase the funding. Obviously, we want to assist when and where we can our businesses. So we may wish to, depending on the situation with the COVID, step up some kind of a campaign, certainly to support the city. That would increase, obviously, the penny and also increase their activity in their locations. So yes, that part of it, yes. not necessarily on the development side, more on reducing the requirement for the additional revenue by controlling our spending and making sure we're getting a great value out of every penny that we spend.
Okay, Mike, same question for you. And in light of the tremendous budget issues, how do you plan to increase funding for the city of Dunedin going forward? Or would you increase funding? Go ahead.
I would try to increase funding, Al. The first thing I would do, I would encourage the city to hire a full-time grant writer on staff, and that's all. Look at federal, local grants, and any type of monies that will stimulate our economy and our city. I would work hard for a home-based economy type industry in Dunedin. The time is perfect for that. It'll have ancillary effects on traffic and congestion. It'll also build up. I will definitely will put more people back to work in Dunedin. Once people back to work in Dunedin, they can go down to our wonderful downtown area and spend more money and support our businesses in that way. I think deals like increasing our revenue stream by smart development. I believe that the Toronto Blue Jays deal would have done that in increasing down the road. Will increase our revenue stream and opportunities to make more money in our city. Thank you, Al.
Okay. Same question. Let's see. For you, Mike, we're talking about, or did we? Yeah, Mike and Sure to talk about now. Or we already talked with you about funding, didn't we? I'm communicating with some other people with notes. So let's move on to the next question right now, and we'll start out with this one with you, Mike. As the city grows, do you think you can maintain the charm of the area without killing the goose that laid the golden egg?
Absolutely, Al. Of course I can. And how do we do that? By communicating with these wonderful residents that have great ideas and have actually had so much great input in our charming vibe we have now. We can't stop development, Al, but we sure can have a say on how it is developed and what happens. We first need to get developers to buy into things like affordable housing, enhancing the vibe that we already have with other vibes in other parts of the city. We need to move out of the central core area where we've done such a great job and maybe move out towards the other four corners of the city. The Coca-Cola property is a perfect example that a development could be created there that does not take away from the vibe of Dunedin, but enhances it in a circular motion outward. And we could also connect, when we can, throughout walkable trails and roadways, each vibe to each other. So I'm not afraid of development. I want the right development to enhance our vibe. Thank you, Al.
Oh, okay, John, same question for you. You want to make sure you keep the charm of the city, and you don't kill the goose that laid the golden egg. So how do you do that?
I'm a very strong supporter of us as a coastal city, as most people know, and I think we need to continue to focus in that area. The vibe of the city, and I don't use that word very often, is really created by a large number of people, to include our merchants, our organizations, our DVMA, our chamber, and the like. One of the areas that I was pretty excited about the beginning of this year, and that was a Coca-Cola property. And that's, again, when I stood up and I requested and suggested that we get together a task force and make sure that we get an opportunity to use that property. We don't own it. We would have to either somehow secure it and or get a partner in it or do a public-private partnership. But also take a look at something like that where we can really diversify our industries. How about a nursing school there, as well as maybe another larger building for the city? Great opportunities.
Okay, so now we're going to do some lightning round. And gentlemen, the way this is going to go is I'm going to read it, and these are pretty much yes and no. But because we have some time, I'm going to let you go a little bit further. If you can answer it yes and no, but if you want to make a quick 10 or 15 second statement that goes along with it, because as I read these, you'll find that some of them are kind of tough to say yes or no to, but let's give it a try. So number one, and we'll just have you answer, Mike, you answer first, and then John, we've got you both up on the screen, so it should work pretty fast. Number one, do you believe your city has an adequate tax rate? Yes or no?
Yes, I do.
John?
That's my answer.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Next one. Are you in favor of preparing a strong environmental plan for the city of Dunedin that everyone can agree upon? Yes or no?
Yes, I am. I have a green company. I have green issued patents globally, and I support the Douglas Hackworth property becoming a preserve. And I hope that the city and county can make that happen.
John, same thing for you.
Yes, we always have, in all of the activities within Dunedin. We're very environmentally concerned and active.
Okay, here's another one. Are you in favor of creating more free parking in Dunedin? Mike.
Of course I am. In this grid, this is the right thing to do and the right place to do it in this charming downtown and other vibes that we are going to create. Yes, I am. I like free.
John?
Free parking is a word that I think we ought to utilize the existing parking that we have in the outlying areas and do some transporting to there. So right now, the cost of some of the land, we really don't have the money within the city, short term, and really not long term. We're going to get involved in a situation where we're going to have a shortage of $1.9 million. That's on page 74 in the budget in 2023. And we have to make sure that we don't have to deal with that. I'd really rather not deal with that. And the way to do that is by cutting back some of our spending and make sure we spend very wisely.
Okay, and the last one is a little complicated. Given that the Blue Jays expansion, particularly on Solon Boulevard, took away 4 community baseball fields, a dog park, a playground for children, cut down over a dozen 100-year-old trees. By the way, they did it on Arbor Day in full view of those children at Garrison Jones. Mm-hmm. Are any plans in the works to replace those facilities for residents near that area? Mike.
Yep. Am I up, Al?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Mike,
your question is to replace those. Yes, I'm sure. First of all, the Blue Jays deal is we're getting a $1.7 billion Major League Baseball team, a $10.7 billion MLB logo in this city, and a national headquarters. So an MLB national headquarters. I will fight to actually do that, and I'm sure the Blue Jays will help us to replace all those trees that were taken because they're paying most of the freight in this endeavor as well. Could have been a better deal, but it was a good deal, and it will bring jobs and revenue streams to the city. As we were asked that question before, that's another way we can do that, increase jobs and revenue in our city.
Okay, John, same question for you.
Yes, I have great empathy for those folks. I've spoken with a number of them. Obviously, they're not very pleased about some of the occurrences. In many cases, they do understand. And I think we need to mitigate that as soon as we can. And I think we should have a plan in place to do that in all of those areas.
Well, that's good because all the candidates have pledged themselves to do that. So that's really good to hear. That's going to make a lot of residents happy. Okay, gentlemen, we're down now to the final 2 minutes. You each have 2 minutes for your closing statements. And Mike, we're going to let you go first. And you've got 2 minutes to tell us why you should be elected to commission seat number 3 for the city of Dunedin. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Al. Lifelong public servant in Dunedin for 30 years. I have a bachelor's degree in criminology and public administration. I have over 30 years experience in local government, boots on the ground type of experience. Business owner, some of you may remember Rich's Foodporium. Green energy company, 2 green energy patents issued globally. I received the Global Platts Energy Award. Executive level experience in the public-private sector negotiations, sat on the city collective bargaining team to negotiate labor contracts and budget preparation. I am proud to say that my campaign has already accomplished these things. In the last 60 days, we've engaged 45,000 area residents, helped to add an educational requirement for pollution penalty codes regarding illegal dumping, initiated a joint venture with Dunedin and USF for legislative aid interns for every city commissioner at no cost to the city and to enhance services to the citizens. Proposed collaborative solutions for the purchase of the Gladys Douglas Preserve. As your commissioner, I will make policy my priority. Your voice matters to me, and I hear you. These are the issues you care about. Traffic and parking. I support Vision Zero, affordable housing. We have to create a policy to provide a cycle of housing from cradle to grave. environment. Our environment is our economy. It's why people live here, and it's why people visit here. The power of the voice of the residents is undeniable. This is a flow chart for the city of Dunedin. At the top of this flow chart, it says the citizens. It says the citizens. As a public servant, first, I will never forget that. Those are the voices that I represent. I understand who's at the top of the citizen, who's the boss. Please vote for Dunedin. Please vote for Mike Quill, Dunedin City Commissioner C3 on November 3rd, or mail in your ballots today. I will be your voice. Thank you, and God bless.
All right, Mike, very good. John, you've got the same thing. We're going to reset the clock for 2 minutes and tell us why you want to be elected to this position. That's seat number 3 on the Dunedin City Council.
I would like to thank you for allowing me this brief time as it relates to John Torndy as your commissioner for seat 3. Having served as your commissioner previously, I know that it's important for you to access the character of your commissioner and be aware of my various experiences and backgrounds, as they will be making decisions on things and issues that may not have been touched on tonight. Dunedin itself is epic because of the people and our location as a historical coastal community. A coastal community includes a treasure of natural beauty, state parks with beautiful beaches, an excellent park and recreational system, including waterfront city parks. I support a vision where residents and visitors alike of all ages and abilities can experience excellent facilities, activities, and programs that enhance their experiences while supporting and enjoying our well-known historical charm, quaint, friendly atmosphere. My background and experience relating as your next commission seat 3 includes the following: education, MBA and a BA in economics, business, CEO, Chief Operating Officer, Vice President of Business Development, Vice President of Europe, Vice President of Marketing and Sales. Dunedin, served as a Dunedin Commissioner and as Chair of the Board of Finance, Chair of the Waterfront Task Force, and as a member of the CRA, Safety Committee, and Marine Advisory, and a number of other Dunedin organizations. I'm a proud United States military veteran, serve on the Board of Honor Flight, and as a life member of the VFW and American Legion. As your commissioner, my promise includes to focus on fiscal responsibility, balanced budget with no tax rate increase or assessments, focusing on all budgets and on cost savings without sacrificing services, accountability, safety and security, transparency. I'm delighted to be endorsed by the Dunedin Firefighters Association 2327 and by the Florida Professional Firefighters. John, experienced, supported, capable, ready, and willing to serve Dunedin from day one. I'm asking for your vote for Dunedin Commission seat 3. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. And wow, we've got a lot of questions in. I want to thank you for those that submitted questions to us, and hope that you found out more about the candidates. We're going to throw it back now to Kimberly Jackson. And by the way, just the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions, it's a great organization. I'm really appreciative of what they're doing, and that they allowed a retired journalist who still likes poking around in the world of politics to ask these questions. Thank you so much. And as I turn it back over to Kimberly, just one last message for you, folks. Please vote. Take care. Kyle, back to you and Kimberly Jackson.
Thanks, Al. I hope you had a wonderful time tonight. I certainly enjoyed the debate. For more information on the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions, we invite you to check out our Facebook page, which has a ton of information on what we do here at our think tank, and or go to our website at isps@spcollege.edu. As we close, we'd like you to have a short message from our president, who's going to share a little bit about the importance of our institute. Have a great night.
You know, civic engagement is so important, not only to St. Petersburg College, but to the benefit of our entire community. What we hope to do at St. Petersburg College, especially in the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions, our goal is to be the catalyst for change. We want to be the convener, the individuals who pull everybody together to talk about a common cause and a plan, to build the mission and the strategy, to move forward and make this county, this state, and our world a better place to live, learn, and play.